It is week 5 of the 2023 NFL season, and I am here to answer your questions on the 2-2 Pittsburgh Steelers here on Steelers Talk. Before I get to your questions here, do me a favor. Click that thumbs up icon if you hate the Baltimore Ravens and you want the Steelers to win this week in week 5. We can see everybody that watches these videos. We can see everybody that likes them. So if you don't like today's video, I might be calling all the Ravens fans out in the chat next show. All right, now let's get into the first question from my man Kenny Pickettsburg with a $2 super chat. He says, O-line coach to blame for the run game problems. And I would say yes, definitely. Pat Meyer, the offensive line coach here in Pittsburgh, has played a big role in this offensive line not being very good over the last several years, right? So you look at the last couple of years, right? We've had an influx of talent come in, and it just has never worked out. And this year, it arguably looks the worst that it ever has. Dan Moore Jr. is the lowest graded left tackle in football. Broderick Jones is going to get the start this week because DMJ's hurt, but Chukwuma Okorafor looks lost. James Daniels has taken a step back. And kind of the case in point here is a couple of different things. First, you're bringing in talent like Isaac Seumalo, for instance. That was one of the highest graded offensive guards in the game in a very competent organization there with the Philadelphia Eagles. Now he comes to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and listen, he played a good week in week 4, but in the first 3 weeks, he was one of the lowest graded guards in the game. Why is that? It's because the coaching isn't there. It's because the discipline's not there for the unit and the chemistry's not there. A lot of that is on the offensive coordinator. Some of that's on the head coach. And then a lot of it as well is on the offensive line coach, Pat Meyer, who has not been a very good coach to this point in his career. You've got influx of talent. And also, the guys that you get rid of, Kendrick Green, he hasn't been great with the Houston Texans, but in the first 4 weeks when he was on the field, he was a below average starting guard in the league. When if he was playing on the Pittsburgh Steelers, he probably would have been the lowest graded guard. He sucked with the Steelers, and he was at least serviceable with the Houston Texans. And then maybe the biggest example is Kevin Dotson, who many Steelers fans wanted out of this organization so bad last year. They trade him away to the Los Angeles Rams, and look at him now. Through the first 4 weeks, the second highest graded guard in football once he gets to a competent organization with a competent offensive line coach. So yes, Pat Meyer has a big role to play here in the offensive line struggles, and that's definitely part of the reason why the run game is struggling right now in Pittsburgh. Then we got a $5 super chat from my man Tanker365. He says, if they do fire Matt Canada, why not hire Byron Leftwich? He won a Super Bowl with the Bucs and Brady as an OC, and he used to play for the Steelers. Now, this is definitely something that I could see happening. I think that Byron Leftwich, if Matt Canada gets fired this year, I think Leftwich is one of the more likely coordinator candidates to be the Steelers' offensive coordinator next year. He's got a connection with Mike Tomlin. He runs the same offense that Bruce Arians ran in his time with the Steelers, right? He's a Bruce Arians disciple. So if Mike Tomlin goes out, asks his buddy Bruce Arians, who should I hire? He's going to tell you Byron Leftwich. So I can see all the connections here. Does this offense really fit the personnel? I think it does. I mean, this offense really prioritizes choice routes, downfield passing. That's kind of right in George Pickens' lane, in my opinion. So I actually think it's a really good fit. And, I think it's definitely something that's very likely to happen as well because of the connections. Then we got one from Dan Robbins. Who did this? Oh, my goodness. Who did the Dan Robbins? What are the chances that Mike Tomlin gets fired at the end of this season? Well, it seems like Matt Canada, the offensive coordinator, has dropped in and given us a question here on the Steelers Talk Live mailbag. Here's the thing. I don't think there's a very high chance that Mike Tomlin gets fired. Now, if they lose and they win 2 games this year and they lose the rest of the games this year, maybe there's a chance if it just turns into an absolute circus. But here's the thing, man. With all the sustained success that Mike Tomlin has had throughout his time here in Pittsburgh, it's earned him a little bit of leeway here. So if he has a bad season this year, I think he gets one more shot to pick an offensive coordinator. And if it doesn't work out this time, I think that's going to be it. But in terms of a firing this season, I don't necessarily see that happening. Personally, I'm going to give it maybe a 5% chance that Mike Tomlin is fired here in 2023. Now, let me know what you guys think. What is the percent chance that Mike Tomlin gets fired at some point this season? It could be during the season. It could be after the season. Let me know what you guys think on a scale of 1 to 100. What are the chances that Mike Tomlin gets fired? This is going to be the pinned comment on today's show. So YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. When that happens, take advantage of that time by answering today's pinned question. My man Theodore Restucci is in the chat, and he says, would you guys also like to see Mitch play a game where he wasn't set up to fail and be overly nervous to hold a spot on the roster? I like Pickett more, but still. Now, I understand the arguments for why the Steelers should maybe go with Mitchell Trubisky, right? Pickett has not looked good through a quarter way through the season. Mitchell Trubisky arguably played better than Pickett last year when he was in the games. But I still think that you got to go with Kenny Pickett. He's the guy you drafted in the first round. You got to give him his shot. It's been only 4 games to this point. Who knows? Maybe he turns things around. I'm not super confident that he's going to do that. But at this point in the season, I still think it's too early to make the move to go to Mitch. So, it'd be interesting to see if Mitch gets a start at some point this year. But for right now, I say stick with Pickett. Then we got one from Pyro Scheme 7-4. And he says, why is Mike Sullivan not on the hot seat? Is he not directly responsible for fixing Pickett's issues from college? So I think Mike Sullivan maybe is on the hot seat, actually, Pyro. He doesn't get discussed a whole lot. And in fact, when he does get discussed, he gets discussed as a potential Matt Canada replacement, right? But Kenny is still showing a lot of the same issues that he showed in college. He doesn't have great pocket presence. The footwork is definitely spotty. He's not a great drop-back pocket passer at this point in his career. He's just not. I think he's lost a little bit of his accuracy even, too. He's been very inaccurate to start this season, which concerns me a lot. So I don't know if that's a mechanical switch that he made this offseason that just hasn't worked out for him. I don't know if that's Mike Sullivan's doing. I don't know if that's Kenny's QB coach is doing. It's really tough to tell. I'm not in the building. I don't know who's responsible for what. But at this point, yeah, Mike Sullivan absolutely, in my opinion, should be on the hot seat because neither Mitch or Kenny has looked particularly good with their time under his tutelage. Now, coming up here, I got more Steelers questions to break down with you guys. But first, let's have a word from our sponsor here at BetUS. They're offering you guys a 125% deposit bonus when you go to chatsports.com/bet and use promo code Steelers125. So if you put in a deposit of $100, $600, they're going to match that 125% for you to use on your bet. So you put in $100, you get $225 total dollars to use on your bets. 125% of your deposit goes back to you to use on your bets. So put in $100, you get $225 value. That's a fantastic deal in my opinion. If you want to take advantage of that before this week's game versus the Ravens, go down there, chatsports.com/bet and use promo code Steelers125 today. Then my man Young Noticeable here says, hear me out, Cooper Rush or Kyler Murray maybe. I'm sorry, but Pickett ain't it, and I don't see us tanking for a good enough QB in the draft. Kenny needs to sit behind a vet and learn some more. So at this point, if you're sitting Kenny, I mean, there's a reason why people have completely blasted the New York Jets for sticking with Zach Wilson, right? There's a reason why that is. In the modern day NFL, you can criticize it, you can say it's unfair, whatever, but in the modern NFL, you really have 2 years, sometimes maybe 3 years, to figure this thing out as a starting quarterback. You're expected to be productive right away. This is a results-based business. And Kenny, I just don't, he's got some issues that are going to be very tough to fix. Accuracy issues, that's going to be tough to fix. Pocket presence issues, that's not really something you can really coach, or at least it's very difficult to coach out of a player. It's more of an instincts thing and how someone plays the game. So I just think that Kenny, if he's going to make it, he's going to have to make it this year. And I don't think Kyler Murray is really an option. I think the Cardinals want him back. I don't think that they're going to trade him. And even if you do trade for Kyler, he's not going to be playing for months. So I don't really like that idea either. Plus, he's a locker room cancer. Don't like that idea. Cooper Rush is a backup quarterback. I don't want him as the starter either. So I don't really like either of those. I don't really like either of those options there, Young Noticeable. I think what you got to do is you got to try to win football games this year with Kenny Pickett. If you have to go to Mitch Trubisky this year, do that. And maybe if like a Ryan Tannehill becomes available or something like that, somebody decent becomes available at the trade deadline, then maybe. But overall, I think that you try your luck this year. If it doesn't work out, look towards the trade market, the free agency market, and the draft to get yourself a new quarterback. Then we got one from DJ KJ who says, hey, Jack, can you put a video saying Matt Canada is officially fired just to make me feel better? No, DJ KJ, I can't do that just yet. But guess what? When it happens, if it happens next week, Coop and I are going to be going live on Monday, Tuesday, whenever the news comes out, and we are going to absolutely party here on the show. So if you haven't already subscribed, make sure you click that subscribe button so you can join us when Matt Canada gets fired. Another one, then we got one from Steelers Nation 24/7 who says, will Denzel Mims be on the Steelers' 53-man roster when they come back from the bye? I don't think so. I think Deontay Johnson is looking like he's going to be back by week 7 at this point. He's doing a good job with his recovery. Calvin Austin III is playing well. Maybe he sneaks onto the roster at some point this year. But I don't think Denzel Mims is going to be somebody that's a real impact on the Steelers team this year. I see him more as a practice squad kind of guy, depth piece. Don't really see him being a true contributor for this team here in 2023. Now, let me know what you guys think about the Denzel Mims signing of the practice squad. He has been added to the practice squad. So let me know what you guys think about the new Steelers receiver. Give me an A, a B, a C, a D, or an F down there in the comment section. Then we got one from KD Swag who says, am I the only one fine with losing so we can clean house with the staff and draft another quarterback? We need young and creative on both sides of the ball. Pittsburgh needs to catch up with the league. Now listen, I completely agree with KD Swag here in terms of needing to get younger and more creative on both sides of the football. The offense is back in 1995. The situational awareness from Matt Canada is abysmal as well. And then on defense, Terrell Austin. I was a big supporter of his coming into this season because towards the end of last year, this defense was among the best in football, right? It was number 1 or number 2 in most defensive categories those last 9 weeks. And now he's playing a bunch of cover 4, a bunch of off coverage. And that, to me, just isn't what the Pittsburgh Steelers are known for. They're more known for getting up in people's faces, press coverage, aggressive, make you beat us down the field with deep shots down the field. And that's not really what they're doing right now. Terrell Austin's trying to go with more the Vic Fangio route, play lots of cover 6, cover 4, off coverage, bend but don't break kind of philosophy. And that's not really the type of defensive philosophy I like. I like more of the Brian Flores approach. Put pressure on the quarterback. Make them work. Press coverage. Lots of DBs on the field. Put speed on the field. That's what's modern in the National Football League nowadays. And right now the Steelers look slow. They look like that they're playing kind of in their fears, to quote Mike Tomlin. And it's not looking good. So although I'm not okay with losing, I'm never going to be okay with losing. Still want this team to win and figure things out. His criticism here that the Steelers need to get better and more creative on both sides of the football is absolutely warranted. Then we got one from Chase Jackson here. It says, I think we should have traded for J.C. Jackson for what the Patriots got for him. Now, the Patriots kind of got a steal, but J.C. Jackson's been terrible, Coop. And especially if the Steelers are going to keep running what they're running. Off coverage, cover 4, cover 6, kind of force the short pass. That's not really what J.C. Jackson does well, right? He just went from a system in L.A. doing that, and he was one of the worst cover 4, cover 6 type corners in the league. Just look at his Pro Football Focus grading the last 2 years when he's been in L.A. It's been terrible. J.C. Jackson's more of a press kind of guy, more of a true man-to-man corner, and I think the Patriots do that. He's going to fit in just like old times with the New England Patriots. If the Steelers wanted to make that transition back to press coverage, I'd 100% be on board. But if Terrell Austin's going to keep us in this current system, J.C. Jackson just simply wouldn't be a fit. Then we got one from Hoagie Man. It says, do you think Matt Canada will get fired after this week? And if so, how much do you see this offense improving under his replacement? Now, I think if the offense sucks again this week, 10 or less points, and a loss versus the Ravens, I think there's a pretty good shot that Matt Canada is fired. Now, as for who replaces him, it's probably going to be either Glenn Thomas or Mike Sullivan, in my opinion. And then here's the thing with this situation, guys. Matt Canada's foundation, the plan has already been set in place. You can't completely change this offense, right? It's not like you can introduce a completely new playbook in the middle of the season. So you're still going to be stuck with a really bad offensive line. You're still going to get stuck with the lowest rated quarterback in football right now in Kenny Pickett. And you're gonna be stuck with Canada's playbook. So it's not like your offense is going to be worlds better immediately when Matt Canada gets fired. But I think the one area where this Steelers defense or offense can really improve is situational awareness. You get somebody in there that actually understands what play calls work in certain situations. Like, for example, not running 4 verticals at the 7-yard line. For example, not throwing the ball out of shotgun on 4th and 1. That kind of situational shit that just got the Steelers into so much trouble with Matt Canada. Having somebody that actually understands what plays to call in Matt Canada's playbook at the right time, that's going to be a good improvement for the Pittsburgh Steelers moving forward. Now, let me know what you guys think about Matt Canada down there in the comments section. Predict it for me. Will Matt Canada be fired after this week? Give me a yes or give me a no. Let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. And that'll be it for this week's mailbag. Thank you to everybody that submitted questions. If you want to join the most interactive Steelers YouTube community here on the platform, go ahead and do me a favor. Click that subscribe button for me. Right now, we have weekly live shows. We got weekly watch parties for all 17 regular season games. And we currently have the highest grossing YouTube watch parties for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So if you want to join the biggest watch parties on the YouTube platform for Pittsburgh Steelers fans, this is going to be the place for you. Make sure you click that subscribe button right now.